It is the Anfield Wrap after Liverpool have got beaten by 2-1 by Manchester United at Anfield. That is not the enticing start to the show that most people would like. It's not the enticing start to our lives. It is, in fact, verging on a fucking disgrace. I'm Neil Atkinson. I've got with me Ian Ryan, Kieran, Molyneux and Paul Senior. Thank you very much to Peloton for partnering with us for a second year. They are the official cardio and strength partner of Liverpool Football Club, and they are the partner of the lead show on the Anfield Wrap. It's been great to have them, and this month they're launching a new product line, which is the Cross Training Series. It's Bike Tread and Bike Plus, powered by Peloton IQ, which gives you the ability to train smarter, grow stronger by generating self-paced custom workouts, tracking reps and giving live form feedback. All of this stuff, wherever you work out, you can bring your own trainer to do. The business and existing members will get a huge software update that includes a Club Peloton and a new reward system, and you are an existing member, Paul Senior.
Yeah, you wouldn't believe it by looking at me, Neil, but yeah, I'm having a go, actually. Yeah, I'm enjoying it.
You were big on it all the way over the summer. You were talking to me about it, and you felt as though it was really helping you. You felt great.
Yeah, a combination of that and our favourite Kieran paddle. Has been a nice summer, really. But yeah, it got me back into having a little go and trying to play a bit of sport again. So yeah, I've really enjoyed it.
Yep, excellent stuff. So yeah, we've got our own team on the Peloton app, so if you search for the Anfield Wrap, but if you can't find it, message John. He'll sort it out there as well. There's loads and loads going on, and as I said before, we are really pleased to partner in there. Ian Ryan, 4 consecutive defeats is a crisis.
Yeah.
It is a crisis. It's all right for it to be referred to as a crisis, I think. I don't think it's hyperbole. I had a little listen to the post-match from the Glen Book last night, and Damien made the point that whilst Liverpool in fits and starts are playing quite well, at no point did you feel as though they wanted to get that result more than Manchester United did. That might be a compliment to Manchester United, don't get me wrong, but in the context of 3 consecutive defeats before a ball is kicked, Liverpool managed to find a series of ways to shoot themselves in the foot.
Yeah, and it's a consistent thing. It's been there in the last 4 games where they're not helping themselves at all. And I think, listen, there's loads to get into on this show after another defeat. And I think some of it will maybe be around, the setup and structure of the team, because I don't think it's quite there again. And the manager will have to reflect on that. And I think, he won't have come away from that game with any real credit, I don't think. And then there's the players as well. And I think, we spoke on the show leading up to the game on Friday. And I think when you're talking about elite football, you always think it has to be more than just about getting the basics right, because that should be a given, really. But there's a massive amount of sloppiness in Liverpool's game that's just prevalent. I would say in all of the matches, even the ones they're winning, it's there for everyone to see. And you think, on the back of what the manager said on Friday, when he talked about a reaction, you think, well, after 3 defeats and it's Manchester United, there's bound to be some kind of reaction. And within a minute, they're a goal down, within a minute. Now, I know there's a bit of mitigation there around what the referee does or doesn't do. But I remember being on a show maybe 2 or 3 years ago and marking his card, Oliver. He's been on the slide for a long time, but he should give that. He should stop play, but he doesn't. And then there's a phase of play afterwards where you've just got to be better. And you look at the captain. And the captain, by the way, I would say probably for the 3rd or 4th game running, again, is just below the level you expect. That can't happen. It shouldn't happen in any game, but a game of that magnitude on the back of 3 defeats.
After 1 minute.
That can't happen. It just can't. And you know what? I feel a little bit sorry for some of the new players. And that's not me saying that it's all been perfect from them. There's things they have to work on and they'll have to get better and quite quickly. But I do feel a little bit sorry for them when you've got senior pros who've been there and done it, and they're just not turning up. And there's a number of them who just aren't turning up. And it's a massive problem. And as I say, the manager does not get away scot-free, because one thing that stunned me, and we did the show after the Chelsea game, and I said to you in that show, I was stunned he picked that team against Chelsea. Well, guess what? I'm even more fucking stunned he's picked it again on the back of what you saw against Chelsea. And by the way, on 45 that day, he changed it because he's almost holding his hands up and going, I've got this a little bit wrong. And yet he picks it again. And I don't quite know how he's landed with the same team, given he had to change it on that day. And I know Bradley gets booked, and maybe that forces his hand a little bit in that Chelsea game. But he wanted to get Vert into the game. And I just could not believe that he didn't start the likes of Vert, the like of Ekitike in that match on Sunday.
Rafa used to say something, didn't he? He always used to say, my idea is clear. And I was thinking about that this morning, really. an awful reflection on what happened yesterday. And I think Slot's got a clear idea of how he wants this to look, but it doesn't look right at the moment. And if that's his 11, where his idea is clear of what he thinks is his best 11, he's gone with it again, but it's not working. And as you say, the sort of leadership group in the team that you're looking to dig them out of this are almost the ones that aren't performing. You know, your captain's making mistakes. Your best player from last season, player of the year, is not at the races, and your vice captain doesn't get a game. So we're the goalkeeper's out. The sort of bedrock of this Liverpool team for a long time, and the success it's had, are completely out of form.
And you can throw in there as well, Paul, that Konate looks shorn of confidence, really important last year. And then there's McAllister issue and there's McAllister question. You can throw those, and that's, as Ian says, before you get into the new lads, they're looking around going, well, you were the best midfielder in the country 8 months ago. You were Caicedo to McAllister. Salah, you were the driving for X and Y. You know what I mean? You can, if you're coming into this right now, you're looking at these lads going, well, where's what was here back in February? Yeah,
and the only one really that's still performing at a reasonable level is Gravenberch, isn't it? So there's a lot of there's a lot of problems, and the guys who are going to make the new lads fit in are not helping them along. So the problem is obvious, but I think the biggest problem comes from what Ian's saying. He picks the wrong team.
I think we're all right to question selection, but I think that a lot of this is on the players yesterday as well, because despite me not agreeing with the starting lineup, we've had 5 or 6 big chances there. And if you're going to lose 3 games on the bounce and then come to Anfield and play Man United in a must-win game, you can't be ballooning shots from 6 yards out. You can't be missing open goals with headers. And we're having a completely different conversation today if we put them chances away. And yeah, all right, the manager's made some mistakes over the past few games, but take them chances and all of a sudden this is a completely different story. The game's a different game. We can't be missing chances like that.
I think that's why it's a little bit complex, because I don't think it's one thing that just fixes it. I think there are like a multitude of issues. As I say, some of it is down to, you know, players just not quite showing the level of intensity that you expect. Certainly for a game like that, I mean, you know, doing a mile off it, loads of them. And then you're bedding in new players, and the manager just seems to be caught between a couple of different stools where he's not quite getting the setup right and the structure, and everyone just looks a little bit lost. You know, I thought going into the game, and why I was really keen for Wirtz to play, you know, we looked at what Man United have done in recent games, and you think, well, there's a really, really good chance they're going to go with Fernandes and Casemiro as a 2. Now, if I'm Wirtz, I'm licking my lips. I'm thinking, well, I can do damage there. I can do serious damage. If I'm picking the ball up in certain pockets, I'm running at Casemiro. By the way, he's getting booked well before 58. If that happens, because you'll expose him. And we've seen it countless times. At 33 years of age, he is now a footballer who is very much, you know, on his last legs. It's been said loads and loads of times. But also, just dropping into those pockets behind those 2. You can only imagine he would have caused a lot of damage, because we're the back of McAllister to do a little bit of an impression of that. And I'm thinking, well, just let the lad whose job it is to do that, rather than force McAllister, who's been an absolute mile off it. And yeah, I think, again, you know, I take the point. There's lads missing chances and stuff, of course, but it feels like there's a lot of things that just aren't quite going right. And that's before, as we said, you get into the new players where you want to give them a little bit of grace because they're moving to a new club and some of them are coming from different countries, so it is hard. But then we're all judging them, aren't we? So they've got to get better and better quickly. But I don't know, I feel sorry for 1 or 2 of them.
You say there's not one thing, but outside of Erling Haaland, you pick the other striker who's in maybe the best form in the country to start the game. It's very clear what the issue is with Alexis McAllister. He's not nearly at the races. He's miles from it, and it's almost like he's not the same player. He looks finished, and I pray to God he isn't finished. But he's so far off the player that we've grown to know and love, and he's been through this intense period with Argentina, with Liverpool, under Jurgen Klopp, then into a title-winning season.
De Zerbi, the World Cup.
Yeah, everything he's ever had to deal with is intense, but he looks so far off it. But he shouldn't be playing. Like it's just so clear he should not be playing as a first choice for Liverpool at the moment. We've got a hologram in midfield, and quite frankly, we've got one on the right side of attacking midfield as well. We're playing what feels like with 9 men at the moment, so they're so far off their former selves So the manager can help himself, make a big decision, don't play him. Curtis Jones is playing well, you know, and in every game he seems to come on, he influences the game and we look better for it. So the remedy comes from picking the right players in form, not just the clear idea the manager of ours, how we want it to look eventually. Even Isak, you can take the pressure off him, you can take all the noise around him off him by going, he hasn't had a pre-season, he's going to be second choice up until Christmas, until he's absolutely fine, he gets a few good games off the bench or whatever. Play Ekitike. It's really, really simple. He comes on yesterday, he sets the game alight.
Yeah.
And that's before we get to other players like Wirtz and Frimpong who made an impact, Chiesa on the game. But your way out of there is, you've got 9 lads on the bench there. A few of them are in decent form, play them.
Yeah.
Because there's some on this 11 that you're playing every bloody week that are miles off it.
The Isak and Ekitike one, I can sort of understand a little bit because that's his number 9 that he wanted to get in. He's got him in now, and he said in the press conference last week, we can judge him now. He's had a pre-season, so he's put a line in the sand for Isak and put him in. The Wirtz one, I can't quite understand, and I wanted to ask you what you think, because I'm worried he's listened to the outside noise a little bit too much with Florian Wirtz. I'm worried that he's tried to take him out of the firing line when he doesn't need to be taken out the firing line, because actually, in some of the games where he hasn't got a goal or got an assist, he should have done, because players, again, have missed chances. And the games where he come on recently, he's looked really, really good. When he's come off the bench, he was our best player in recent games. So I'm a little bit confused about the Wirtz one. Ekitike and Isak, I can sort of understand. He wants to put Isak in. He says he's fit now. But leaving Wirtz out, I don't understand it. Do you reckon he's a little bit...
But my first question on the key, I'll come back to you before I bring Ian and Paul in, but my first question is, if he was playing what you'd call 4-2-3-1, where there's 2 who sit in front of a back 4 and then there's 3 and there's 1, and you decide, well, I want to go with Szoboszlai because he's been really influential, and that's not Wirtz to be in that 2. So if he was to say, well, that's the point and that's what I'm going to do, but he picks, as Ian said, he picks McAllister and basically plays him left-sided forward. He's that high. He plays him like an aggressive attacking midfield. So that's what I do. It's not so much, if you're going to play 4-2-3-1, play 4-2-3-1, and then afterwards I get to go, well, that's where that is. But no, he's got him all the way up there.
You look at a heat map of Wirtz at Leverkusen, that's the space he occupies. You've got one of the outstanding footballers in the world in that position, and you're playing a lad whose legs have clearly fell off. And as you said, it's against a 2 in midfield. Casemiro, whose legs have gone. Bruno Fernandes, who's a 10 playing in the centre of midfield, doesn't want that. He doesn't want to be tracking Florian Wirtz in between the lines there. So I just don't understand it.
You said this on the pre-match warm-up. You mentioned Casemiro and Wirtz on the show. We all seen this coming, and when he wasn't in the starting lineup, I was a little bit confused, but then as the game unfolded, I'm watching it going, why isn't Florian Wirtz on this pitch? And when he comes on, he's the best player on the pitch.
Yeah, I think there's and I'm not a massive advocate for this, but I do feel like there's probably 3 or 4 lads who are well within the rights to knock on the manager's door and just say,
what's going on?
Just sit me down and explain to me why I'm not getting played here. Like
who they are? Andy Robertson, one of them.
I don't know whether Robertson is necessarily one of them. I think you can.
Well, the first 4 subs yesterday have all got an argument.
Yeah.
So the 3 he brings on the hour mark and Chiesa, whether whatever we think about where Chiesa's up to, Chiesa is in and of himself within his rights to say to the manager, well, what is it that I have to do to get picked from the start? And what is it that these have to do wrong that I get picked from the start instead?
I think that's it. I think Chiesa for a while, and I know there's been 1 or 2 little niggles in there that have maybe stopped him from having maybe a little bit more minutes, but I think he's definitely one. Ekitike, I think, I probably would have started him on the left-hand side, but a point did get made on the post-match stuff around. Is he's going to give you quite the protection on that side going the other way? Well, maybe not, but I think, let's just deal with what's in front of us. Manchester United are a really, really poor side. They're a really, really poor side. And we made them look semi-competent. That's the first time they put back-to-back games together.
Is that the first away win since March today?
But under that manager, they've not won 2 games on the spin in the Premier League, and we allowed them to do it yesterday. It blows your mind a little bit, but I do think there's 3 or 4 lads there who can legitimately say to the manager, just sit me down and explain to me why I'm not getting played. And there might need to be some uncomfortable conversations. Yet again, Mohamed Salah said the performance that it just isn't anywhere near the level. And it's not just about the system and the setup. That's maybe hamstringing him a little bit. Some of the basics again, where he's got hold of the ball and it's bouncing off him, and that chance he gets at the end, I'm sorry, it either has to go in or you've got to supply Wirtz who's just there ready to put it in. So if you don't score, then people will legitimately go, well, you had to lay it off. But to not hit the target.
But he was at the point, last season, Mo Salah's the threat. Currently, I feel he's the opportunity. You know, you hear about Maresca. They want to play on the space and behind Salah. You know, it's wide open. Liverpool are playing one of our best central midfielders at right back, or having to find some joy in the game by putting him there. Salah should be frightening the opposition. They shouldn't be going, actually, there's a massive vacant space in behind Salah. That's where we're going to win the game, or we're going to get into the game from today. But the thing is, when he's not the threat, the trade-off's not worth it.
Yeah.
But the thing, what strikes me though, Paul, is that you actually got a little bit of like the first one that Gakpo hits the post is from what is a frankly phenomenal bit of play and ball from Salah.
Yeah.
But it's a phenomenal bit of play and ball from Salah 60 yards from the goal. Where and that's one of the things that makes it so good. But the point at the minute is that when Liverpool, you know, I think if you're Salah at the minute, you're getting a fair bit of ball around the opposition penalty area. You are being brought into the game, and maybe when it's a bit fraught, and obviously it's a bit fraught yesterday because they scored in the first minute. So Liverpool have to play effectively 95 minutes of football until they equalise. They play all that period of football needing to get something. But there is, you know, I see this as a double-edged thing. It's worth saying that yesterday for the trade-off. Well, if you're the manager, you're going, if he just plays crap. But we've got him in the game. He's got the ball, he's had the opportunity, but then, and that's where it comes down to, well, what are you or aren't you going to do with Salah?
Over the years with Mo Salah, we've seen this so many times. We've seen him have quiet games. We've seen him have spells where, you know, he's not as prolific as he normally is, but the numbers always add up. And that's the thing. If you're not going to be supplying the goals and assists, and another point is, he's not working extra hard as well, and that's what's doing my head in a little bit. I've stuck up for Salah for years and years and years with people trying to, you know, argue about these points in his game, but the numbers always add up. But if the numbers aren't adding up, and you're not getting the goals and not getting the assists, I want to see you busting your ass.
This is the trade-off.
I want to see you really working hard, and he's not doing it.
But he's, you know, at the age he is now, you're not going to get that really from Salah. I mean,
last year,
he wasn't doing it much. He does it away at Man City, and he plays unbelievable that day. This is not about judging what Salah's done in the past for Liverpool. We all know he's been a legend. I mean, the numbers are there, as you say, but as Paul said, the trade-off, it's got to be worth it. And if he's not got the output, then you're not getting loads from him. I think the system setup thing, you could legitimately say early in the season, are the getting Salah in the right positions, but against Chelsea, he was in those positions. There was no doubt he was involved very much in the football match. And again, he's involved, but the output on the final ball, and even sometimes the touch, it's a mile off. And I think the manager could easily look at Brentford and go, well, you're not starting that one. And we won't like it, but there's an absolute case for doing that.
There is, but one of the things that's difficult is the way the squad's been built is he's the one player who doesn't have the cover, and he's also the one that Liverpool put the money on it. But I think there's a little bit of a thing where you said that about. So I think for instance, Salah grafts like nothing on earth. Last half an hour against Everton in the derby, we're ahead. It's gone 2-0, it's going 2-1. No one's playing that well. We've had a big week, everyone's shattered, and Salah throws in a big performance in front, protects his full-back and fights to protect the lead. I think that when we're not ahead in these games, and I think you see it in that one against Chelsea, Salah's thinking, I've got to do something here. I've got to fix this. But I think there's a thing with that with Van Dijk. Van Dijk, you know, charging round yesterday, I thought his first half was mad. And this is where, for me, and there's a thing that can happen sometimes where Liverpool weren't playing that well after the derby, but they obviously got the wins that were on the board at that point. But what can happen is in the efforts to fix things, at times, if you're not careful, other people, you can play everyone out of form. In the efforts to try to, we need to get McAllister sorted out, but all of a sudden now, well, Kirk has got no one to pass to because McAllister, do you know, I'm watching them at the minute, and where I get most concerned with the football team is when I think everyone erodes everyone else out of form. And that's sort of what's happened with this Liverpool side now. You feel like Van Dijk's a good example of it. Van Dijk looked imperious up until the final whistle against Everton. And now, after what's gone on against Palace and so on, it feels like Van Dijk's played himself out. Ekitike with the mad second yellow. Feels like Ekitike's just sort of got himself a teeny little bit off the boil. He's trying to integrate Isak, but it's not working there for another area. So all the players have got themselves a little bit off the boil. Salah's just got worse and worse and worse through these games. That's why it is, you know, I started this off by saying, you know, it does feel like a bit of a crisis at this point because it feels as though the thing that you always think fixes football is his games and opportunities to go and put it right. And at the minute, if even somehow yesterday Gakpo managed to be constantly involved in the game, score and equalise and a big goal, hit the woodwork 3 times, and everyone's coming out the ground saying, fucking hell, Gakpo's annoying.
Yeah.
This is where football teams, you know, they have this sandpaper effect. And when everything flows, it feels great. But at the minute, it just feels like this all the time.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I think that's fair. I think on the Ekitike thing, no. I mean, I think when he came on, he looked looked pretty
I
lively.
do look bright. No.
I mean, I thought he's one where, you go back to the point before where I think he's probably just scratching his head a little bit and thinking, I should be starting games here.
On that
You
Paul,
can tell he believes he should be
I should be
starting.
starting games.
but on that Paul, I think that one of the things that happens if you look at the subs and then look at what happens at around the 60-minute mark with Kerkez as well, is that all of a sudden Liverpool have got lads who are happy to carry the ball. Jones was delighted to carry the ball into space. Wirtz wants to carry the ball. He wants to be moving forward with the ball. Chiesa, when Chiesa comes on, he wants to carry the ball. Kerkez wants to carry the ball. Ekitike wants to carry the ball. And suddenly that's, I think, part of what sparked Liverpool into being able to find that gear and get that equaliser. But then the way that reflects on the players before that point, it's like no one wanted to drive at Manchester United and there was so much space to do it.
And especially in the first half after the goal, it was doing my head in a little bit. It seemed, I said to Andy, I said, have these been told to stick to the game plan here and carry on playing as if it's 0-0? Because when that goal went in, I wanted to see Liverpool instantly react and start playing like there's 5 minutes left and get that game back level. And they just kept slowing it down. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, I was screaming in the ground at that. I'm sick of seeing Liverpool let the other team get the shape back. Van Dijk will get the ball, and it's just like...
It's because we're used to the old Liverpool who just go, like the Red Arrows, go full pelt at it. Is that what it is?
I thought for a moment in the second half, we seen them Red Arrows. There was about we were on counter-attack, there's 6 or 7 lads flying forward. But it is, as you say, Neil, after he's made the changes. But what I do feel is that there's a little bit of lack of intelligence on the pitch at the moment. And you'd introduce Curtis Jones and you'd introduce Florian Wirtz. And all of a sudden, Liverpool can put the foot on the ball, but in the correct way, in a positive, we're going to make a move from this. Wirtz get the ball on the right-hand side yesterday, and he's looked up, and there's a game in front of him, rather than this just desperate need to try something, or reset your shape, and get Kerkez on an underlap, and what you're saying, the manager's like, well, that's plan A. It's plan A or plan A.
It seemed as if it was like nothing changes because that goal's gone in. We just carry on playing our game and we'll control the match, but we weren't controlling anything.
Man United's games changed because they've scored the early goal, so you have to adjust to that. And for all the things we'll say about Man United being a poor team or whatever, Amarin's got them set up in his way, and he's took a lot of criticism, but their idea again is clear. This is how we play. But in a rare instance, they've took the lead and they've been able to bed in a little bit and like, all right, lads, this is how it looks. We've been coached in one way. You don't have to go and chase the game. Let these divvies go and chase it. And Liverpool just look devoid of ideas at a lot of the time.
Looks a bit toothless.
In the first half, there's this problem that happens for a manager in these scenarios. I'm saying again about people playing themselves out of form and all of that, Ian, which is that obviously questions begin to sort of abound around selection and recruitment. There was a lot of people who were very, very happy with Liverpool's busyness over the course of the summer. I was happy with much of it, and I'll come back to bang on the drum if I wouldn't actually have minded a little bit more. I still think Liverpool look one if the manager's not prepared to start Chiesa in a proper football match, which he just does not seem to be, then Liverpool to me just sort of still look one option down. But that said, if you have options and you don't win, people will discuss your options. The manager's going to be asked a few questions in his press conference this week before the Frankfurt game. This is now controversial in a way. Why are you picking him and not picking him? Why are you picking him and not picking him? Saying before about people knocking on the manager's door and saying, why is he getting picked and not me? If you don't win and you've got all these players and all this money, you've paid all this money for, they are going to be within the right to knock on your door and be going, well, I think I'm playing all right. And that's his internal problem. But he's got an external problem now as well, that this is what everyone's discussing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, he'll have to manage that dressing room. And listen, you'd fancy there's enough strong characters in there just to maybe make sure it doesn't spill over in a bad way. But, you want harmony. And I think sometimes, I talked on Friday about a meritocracy, and I think you do want to see that more often than not. And I just think he has just got one or two things wrong, where he's maybe just thinking about what players have given maybe 6-7 months ago, and he's thinking, well, at some point it will click. Well, it might not, and it hasn't so far. So you've just got to kind of play your best hand right now. And I think he's leaving some of those lads out to our detriment. And it is people like Ekitike, it is people like Chiesa, it is people like Wirtz. So you think, well, when you saw them come on, there was an energy, there was, again, it's back to the basics thing, but you've hardly seen anyone put a challenge in. It's a Liverpool-Manchester United game. Without sounding like Roy Keane, you expect a little bit of blood and thunder. I'm watching Mason Mount do that. It's Mason Mount who's been, hampered by injuries, and he's going into Conor Bradley in minute 1, looking like, hang on, there's a game of football happening here, boys. And you didn't get a sense of that from Liverpool at all, which is, again, you're looking at them and thinking, well, what's happening there? You know, on the back of 3 defeats, you did be busting a gut to come out and just lay one on someone. Albeit, you can't quite do it like you maybe could 10, 15 years ago, but get that. But you can make a fair, hard challenge, you know.
Still fight,
I
see some fight.
Conor Bradley against Real Madrid, that just gets everyone on the, you know, the edge a little bit. But there wasn't even any of that, and I just found it a really, really strange performance, especially
Bradley
when
makes it back around 35 and the crowd gets up. And that's
Yeah.
your point. No, but the point was that it took till 35 before someone does something where the crowd goes, in terms of when they've got the ball, where the crowd goes, fucking come on, man. That was the first, I remember it because I was just tracking my brains there if it was the one, and it was 35 minutes in.
But you're right there, Ian. It was Mason Mount that did that.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it's not a Liverpool player who's gone, we're going to set the standard. Man United set the standard for fight.
Yeah.
And that's what was lacking. And do you know what? I don't buy into when a lot of people were talking about Liverpool not having an English player in the team in a recent game. I don't really buy into that because some of our best ever players who show the most fight are not English. But you saw that from Mason Mount. It was like a Premier League standard of this is how you deal with these games. I remember the game against Arsenal where there's a moment in the game where we're 2-0 down and the cop turns, someone leaves a tackle on someone.
It's Xhaka and Trent.
Yeah, there you go. So and then the ground gets behind them. I don't think our team really gave us that moment. It was in small doses where you were like a little flash of attacking football or something. I've been looking at the team and I think there's just a standard setter missing on the pitch really. And I thought when Jones comes on, you get a little bit of that.
The positives,
passion.
The positives, I would argue, Kia, are Jones and Wirtz. I think the two of them really are the positives. And I still don't know what the manager makes of Kieran in the rounds. And I think we all know Ekitike is special. And I think that the manager knows that as well. But for me, Jones and Wirtz just really, and also the fact that you got the impression they were enjoying playing together. You got the impression they were finding the ball and moving the ball to other players. It looked to me like there were suddenly partnerships on the pitch. Theirs was the main one, but there were other places on the pitch where it suddenly felt as though this Liverpool team has met. And it stems from when Jones and Wirtz come on.
Yeah, we look properly creative, didn't we? And they look like two proper footballers, which we just did look like we had on the pitch all game. The problem is we got a lot of midfielders and we've got 3 positions to put them in, and I don't know which way we go with this now. I mean, obviously Wirtz for me definitely starts, but I want to see Jones play now after yesterday. So where'd you go with that?
Where'd you get Gravenberch and Szoboszlai into the team?
Point,
and that, I think that lies the problem. So is it a system change that's needed? Is it Wirtz off the left? But that didn't look all that good when he was out there. So we've got problems in terms of.
But I think, you're seeing them as problems, but I'm seeing them as options and opportunities. Like, you know, this to me. So for instance, some games you might say, I'll just throw this out there. You know, if we go right the way back to 22-23 when things weren't going very well, it's worth remembering part of how Klopp stops the rot is he moves Jones into midfield and plays that weird box thing, and Jones plays a bit off the left. You could have Jones. I'd rather see Jones off the left than Wirtz, but you could have, for now, you could say to Curtis, just do us a little bit of a tap for us. We need to control games for the first hour a little bit better. You're going to play left-hand side. It's not going to be all exciting stuff, but it's a bit different, and then we're going to have a little box in there. You can have Szoboszlai coming from right back, and you can have a different box in there in a different way.
We were talking before about Ekitike off the left.
Yeah, you can have, but that's the point, is that you can, but we're suddenly seeing this is why I'm annoyed. And this is what happens when things aren't going well, where you start to discuss selection. What we're now seeing is you're seeing all these selection things, and I understand why, and the listeners and the viewers will be doing the same thing as, these are just tricky. No, these are good players, and these are positive for the manager to be able to say, this is what's going to help me in this game.
You might need them soon because Gravenberch comes off with a twisted ankle, so all of a sudden, you know, you're looking at a midfield that has got Curtis Jones in it against Frankfurt. It's almost
you're picking Szoboszlai, Jones and Wirtz.
Yeah, exactly. So that feels like it'll. But I mean, I'm looking at the midfield, and I'm quite high up in the Kop where I am. And there was just times in that first half, I just can't believe the gaps. I can't believe the space. There's Gravenberch on his own in there. And Szoboszlai,
that's got to be instruction.
It has to be. But they're so high. And I'm thinking, but how are you ending up with almost a 40-yard area of space where there's only Gravenberch in there? It defies belief, but that's what and you've seen it in not just that game, but you're stunned that you're seeing that in a Premier League game of that level where there's so much space that's been emptied out and you're left with a sole midfielder in there. But as you said, he must be telling McAllister and Szoboszlai to push that high up because they're doing it pretty much from minute one.
I think he wanted to turn their back five into a back five. That was his way to do it first half, and then second half he does it by going 4-2-4. And the 4-2-4 thing works much better than the idea of having Szoboszlai and McAllister all the way up there. Listen, just dead quick, because I want to come on to individual performances, Paul. But I just want to talk now. We'll come back and talk about it more towards the end of the show. But in the round, Frankfurt now just feels like an absolutely massive game because they can't lose 5 on the bounce. If they do, then there's a lot of pressure on. It's a tough place to go in Europe. Listen, they got beat last time out 5-1 by Atletico Madrid. We beat Atletico Madrid, but they beat Galatasaray 5-1. We got beat by Galatasaray. Home and away is a big thing in Europe. It does look like a difficult place to go, but no one's got any interest in excuses right now.
No, and do you know what? I'm going the game, and I got home last night, and when
I'm not jealous of you, you know.
No, listen, I love going to Germany any time, but I just can you just give me the credit? Let me not go to the match. Like, I'm looking forward to.
You'll go mad watching it on the telly. I'm going to go mad watching it on
At
the
least
telly.
I get to shout.
Exactly, you get to shout. You get to shout. You can shout it all out.
It was just like I just need a couple of days off there on the back of everything, and getting up in the morning to go to match is just.
Don't be like that. They turn it around.
This
is the game. This is the game. Liverpool 3-0.
It could be mad, you know, the amount of goals that seem to be in their game. They were involved in a 6-4 recently as well. And like you mentioned, the 5-1 there. Eh? I mean, Bayern Munich go there recently and do them 3-0 on their own patch. And then Union Berlin
score first minute though, by the way.
Yeah, they do, yeah. Union Berlin have been there, done 1-4-3. So they can concede goals. They can score them as well. I mean, Liverpool got to be careful not to get involved in too much of a basketball match because, you know, they might not come out on top given what we've seen. But I think what I'm saying here is there will be opportunities to get at them.
All right, I want to get into some individual performances, Paul. I want to start with the goalkeeper, actually. I just think there's a need to do better for the opening goal. He either comes or he doesn't come and he ends up in a bit of a halfway house. I think he's had a bit of grief for the second that I'm not really on board with. But one of the things is, though, he's obviously not as good with his feet as Alisson Becker is, and Liverpool in the round end up paying the price.
He's not as good with his feet or his hands, evidently, but listen,
Who is?
Who is that? And that's it, isn't it? It's a glimpse into the future, really, of this lad's rated very, very highly. Was talked about as one of the best options in Europe. I'm not judging him on his second game for Liverpool. You know, someone said to me around yesterday, is he better than Kelleher? And I was like, well, I was at Newcastle away when Kelleher throws one in, and I've seen a number of mistakes, and I like Kevin Kelleher as a goalkeeper, but it was the right move to let him go and us to bring in someone else for the future. But the standard is, like, you're used to watching a 5-star goalkeeper, and I think Alisson saves the first goal, quite frankly. I think you are right to say he's in a halfway out. It was my immediate thing from the goal. It wasn't they should have blown up for McAllister being down with a head injury, is that the goalkeeper should have done better. And he doesn't come out and make himself big, and he is big. That's one thing Mamardashvili is a big guy, and it's just gone down the side of him, hasn't it? And I don't think he's really like done that sort of like star shape, which I think he would just hit a part of his body. I think he spills one as well, which maybe he shouldn't have done, and got a bit fortunate with that. Look a bit nervy when the ball's at his feet. Again, the speed of the Premier League is probably something for him to adjust to.
It doesn't help that half of them don't seem to be aware he's left-footed.
That is another thing, and I think
still
there's. I mean, they've played with him a lot of pre-season.
in training every day.
And in training, yeah. I think that's the thing as fans you forget, really, isn't it? It's like, you know, put it to his left foot. And but again, and we've said it for the outfield players, it doesn't help him that he's not playing aside in the ascendancy. It's not that at all. So for him to find some confidence and some rhythm, and he's going to have to find it, because it doesn't sound like Alisson's back anytime soon, which is a typical sort of thing nowadays, isn't it? That you seem to miss Ali for 10 games every season at some point.
Often in the autumn.
Yeah, so there's something there.
Around the clocks. Got a thing with the clocks.
Yeah, he loves Halloween. Big barbecue for Halloween. But no, I listen, I don't know. But he should do better with that first. But honestly, I feel like when you've got that list in front of me there, Neil, he's the least of my worries.
We'll move on to the next of the worries then. Canate with the Mimimi. And I actually think there's, first and foremost, he puts that ball through for Isak.
Yeah,
it's a such, like, obviously I'm desperate for Liverpool to score an equaliser. I'm desperate for Isak to get his first Premier League goal for Liverpool. But more than anything, it wouldn't have been no bad thing for Canate to have had an assist, because he can then relax a little bit with his passing. Because I still think even then he's still second guessing himself. He's not great for the opening goal either. I think he's playing on and a little bit dawdling around it, because we know Virgil's very aggressive with where he puts his line. He just at the minute just does not look like his confident self at all, and I think he's a bit deep a lot during the match.
Yeah, I'm not sure to be too harsh with him on the first one, because I just think they're all running back towards their own goal. So Virgil's got no idea where Canati is, so he can't be trying to play offside. It's not like they're all pushing out. Virgil's just got to do the basics, like we said before, and go with the fucking runner. Is what he should do. I thought actually Canati was better than he has been recently. I would say out of the back four, he was probably, and it's a low bar, but he's probably the best performer for me until maybe when the second goal goes in and he does get caught a little bit. They have pushed out Liverpool, but Canati's the one who hasn't quite got out in time, and there's a fucking queue of them, by the way, at the back post. 3 of them waiting to put it in. And how football works sometimes is Harry Maguire misses that gilt-edged one last season, but gets the winner this time round.
Of all people, he now is a unmarked.
I mean, he's the danger man in the...
I seen him coming forward, there's a little incident before they get the corner or a free kick. And Maguire's late coming up. And my immediate thing is, well, there's Maguire. Who's got him? Because he's the obvious threat.
Brilliant.
They lash him up front.
He nearly done it last year.
That's what I said. But he almost gets the winner last year, doesn't he? But puts it over the bar.
Be the same if you're playing Arsenal. There's an obvious threat. It's Gabriel.
Yeah.
Get someone on him. Like, he's the danger man in all of that.
I think they've tried to push out, but as I say,
naive,
Canati doesn't quite get out. I mean, as I say, I don't think anyone's been Canati's biggest fan this season because he had a really poor start to the campaign. But I thought he was a little bit better.
I thought he was better
yesterday. As I say, probably out the back four, he was probably the one who showed the most in terms of aggression and stuff. But and as you said, Neil, if he gets the assist, then it maybe just gives him a little bit of a boost because you've not really seen that from him where he's punching balls through, but he does it yesterday. And as we said before, he's actually scored.
Yeah, I do agree. His passing wasn't the best yesterday again, but I think his recovery and his tackling was a lot better yesterday.
But the thing is, Kieran, I don't think it's ever been the best. It's just not. We're looking for excuses and why the performances aren't good, and that's one of the things. Don't get me wrong, he's had some moments, and I appreciate that. But that's not his primary job, is it? He's one of the best defenders covering space in the world. Like, you can play a high line with Canati because Canati's recovery, and he recovers. There's one down the right back side there yesterday, and he recovers well. And I'm again with you. I thought he was the better performer out of a poor bunch.
I think he's playing as if he knows people are on his back. He knows people are talking about him. He's just a little bit too.
He's reacting to things as well, isn't he? You can hear he'll hear a noise, and he's almost wanting to front the ground, like something's in his head. You've got nothing to be in your head about. Just do your job.
Well, Virgil's head goes first half, Paul.
It does, yeah. That where he wipes McAllister out, that's not his business. I'm like, it's on you, that one. And you're the leader in the team, you're the captain, you're the standard setter. What are you doing?
I think he's trying to do so many other people's jobs.
Well, it is, and this is what happens when you're out of form, isn't it? And I think Van Dijk, he's a cool fella. He's not a cool fella in that first half.
You shouted at Canati a couple of times as well to speed things up, and a couple of other players.
And he slows it down himself.
Throwing his hands about, and that, as you say, it's not like him. He's normally calm, isn't he?
There's a situation that Liverpool are finding themselves in with the losing football matches, but you don't have to change who you are. That's McAllister's header. You pick up the second ball. Otherwise, Mbuemo's not just running past you, and Man United aren't scoring. Van Dijk's a fault for the first goal. As much as the goalkeeper can do better, that's not your business, that header. Firstly, it's near on the halfway line and people are behind you. It's basic for me. What are you doing? And it's easy to say with him, you're better than that. You know.
Do you think McAllister's going to lose the header and wants to make sure, or do you think he's gone, right, I'm going to take the player out and let them know that McAllister gets a knock as well?
If Van Dijk's 15 yards behind him, Kieran, there's no problem. He creates a live problem. If McAllister loses the header, deal with what comes next.
I agree with
that. But even when he's done that, there's still plenty of time to get back in. He's almost in second gear.
I know.
Yeah.
And listen, there's not many criticisms of Van Dijk over the years, but sometimes he just thinks he can get there when he can't, and he's almost just kind of, I'll sort this, but sometimes you just got to show the intensity.
There's been a lot of things recently where they've highlighted as casualness, and obviously there's an unfortunate imitation Chelsea with he's sticking his ass out, isn't it, in terms of like where he's it's a Caicedo who's took the shot, and Van Dijk's just looks casual. It served us well, his way of defending so more often than obviously not. But as you get older, you might have to put it in a little bit more there, and way most quick. You're gonna have to break a sweat to catch up with them. Like, for me, it just feels a little bit arrogance, probably the wrong word, but casual is maybe. You're not allowed to be casual against Man United, unfortunately.
But head goals is not 2 words that comes after Van Dijk, and you don't want to see the captain
at
the minute losing his head. You want to see that sort of that rock which he is.
But I think if you're an opposing team at the minute, it looks like Liverpool are there to be got at all over the pitch. So you're not really, previous years or in different seasons, you might have said, well, they'll stay away from that side. I think at the minute, everything's up for grabs. You know, teams aren't that bothered. And then when you look at the fixture list coming up, every game now looks tricky. You're thinking, well, fuck around, Villarreal all of a sudden. You think that could be a problem.
Well, but again, similarly, like
Brentford could be a problem.
Well, but one of the things of like seeing options, when you begin to see options as difficult questions, what you're in a bad place when you look at forthcoming games, and all you can see is the trapdoor.
Yeah.
In every single one, and that's the that genuinely is the thing that happens, and it's another symptom of being in a bad place. You know, for me, I'd quite like to have the attitude of let's fucking have Villa at 8 o'clock on a Saturday night, please. Let's get into. They could be a good opponent for us right now, and that they'll fancy themselves. Playing quite well. But I think that's beat them last season, better than at their gaff last season, but they're a good side. But they'll play a certain way. Kirk has a good second half. It's this funny thing where Ian, as soon as he starts to carry the ball, I'm quite enthused. There's endless periods though of matches where he just doesn't carry the ball, and I can't make head and tail of it.
Back to this instruction thing though, isn't it? I said after the Chelsea game, they've got to use these full-backs, the ones they've brought in, to the best of their ability in terms of, if you're buying it because they're great at going up and down the line, then let them go up and down the line. We were asking some of them to do things that they're not quite comfortable with, all of a sudden, Kirk's tuck it in and playing inverted. He doesn't look that great on the ball. I think first half, he was a little bit like a dog chasing a car to an extent, without being too cruel on him. It wasn't great to watch. But you know what? I thought he sorted himself out second half, and he was much better. And I'm saying that, the criticism I'm giving him there, I'm saying that, but knowing full well that the setup and the structure is not helping him at all. It's just not helping him or his mate on the other side.
Well,
so there's definitely mitigation.
You're talking about him not being good on the ball or not being as good on the ball as you might like. But what I want to say there is, therefore it would help if you had Alexis McAllister inside him to pass to.
Yeah,
but Alexis McAllister's all the way up there. He's all the way up there. So he's picking the ball up, and if you don't want him to carry it, but you're not giving him anyone to pass to, apart from back to Van Dijk or maybe to Gravenberch, or maybe just go up the line to Gakpo. That there is options. He actually does not have. He did not have in that first half a left-sided centre mid who was a 15-yard ball away. To then pop it in there, use your pace, go the other side and get. I was just watching it like, but what do you want the lad to do?
There's a fella who was sat on the bench who's really good in them spaces as well.
Yeah.
I just don't think it. I don't think it helps. Like, he is the current scapegoat amongst Liverpool fans, and this is probably the clip that we were worrying about. Kirkes is the go-to guy to criticise, and he's not the one. He's a 21-year-old left-back who's being asked to do a lot of things. I don't think were the things that I liked what he did at Bournemouth. Quite frankly, great on the overlap. He underlaps every time. Like this, what are we doing? Like, there was amount of times where Gakpo's got his man one-on-one and you're looking for that ball around the side and he's having to come inside of him. It just doesn't make sense. And that again falls at the feet of the manager for me.
Paul, when you think, I said this the other day, when you think about Bournemouth and when they were at the best last season and you think about Kirkes, it was him flying down the line, especially in that game against Spurs where he puts that ball in. But there were other ones as well where he is doing that and he's almost getting it on the run and then pinging it first time.
He's making inside runs or outside runs.
So again, I think it's instruction. I can't see Kirkes' game at Bournemouth being up and down, and he comes to Liverpool and he's just not doing it, deciding to not do it. So we said it ourselves in the first half there, Liverpool just seemed to get to a certain point and then not want to overcommit. I don't know whether he's been told to do this, but I agree with what you're saying. Don't get me wrong, I do think there's areas he can improve, and there's been times this season where he's looked a little bit naive, but he's a 21-year-old kid, and the answer's not going backwards. The answer's not like, well, Andy Robbo, put him back in long term, because Andy Robbo had these criticisms last year. People were saying the same thing about Andy Robertson. The reason why we've signed Kirk is we need a new left back. So, we haven't got loads of time. We can't keep losing games. We can't keep trying things out. But he should be picking his first choice left back, which is that, and we've got to move forward with it.
I just on your point around, Kirk maybe not having options, but around me, people were getting frustrated. I understood it to a little extent because they are moving it a little bit slow around the back, but at times, because there's no one in front of them, there's no one to give it to. So there's only Gravenberch there. So I do have a little bit of sympathy for the centre-halves where they're looking for a pass and it doesn't exist because every fucker's gone forward. So they've got to get that balance in the team at the minute. It just looks a mile off.
Wanted to McAllister, Paul. It just feels harsh, this, because I loved him last season, At times, there was a couple of people who would, for instance, feel as though he wasn't quite as dynamic as other players in Liverpool's midfield last season. I couldn't believe what people were saying, or when they were saying that. I thought it was an unfair criticism. I want to be really clear in amongst all of this that you know, genuinely love the player. Think he ends the season up to when we win the league as Liverpool's best midfielder in the second half of the campaign, scores that massive goal against Tottenham, you know, and it feels like it's right that he scores that goal against Tottenham in a number of ways, given everything that's come before it. I'm saying all of this because the next phase of this, to some people listening, might feel as though it's harsh. I don't want him anywhere near it. I don't want him to start another game this side of the November international break, apart from Palace in the League Cup. I'm watching him and he just looks so far away from the footballer. And there might be any one of a number of reasons that we don't know about behind the scenes. There could be anything that's gone on. There could be any one of... I just think there's also a miles on the clock. I think he's had a really arduous 4 years when you look back at it now. A really arduous 4 years, including, I'll say again, a World Cup, a Copa America. I think there's a real thing where maybe, just maybe, he's a bit knackered for a number of reasons. But there could be something else. I want to say all that because I want to say I just don't want him to play for Liverpool for the next few weeks, if you don't mind.
Yeah, and I think all that's fair. I think anyone who's had the misfortune of watching him this season can see that there's a problem there. And it begs the question why he's persistent with him, because anyone can see.
I think he wants him to click back. I think he thinks if I just give him a game,
twice
click
for
back
Argentina,
in.
doesn't he? And maybe he thinks, oh well, he's back at the races. It doesn't help that the captain goes and smashes him in the head, which leads to a goal. Which, you know, you're chasing the game from that point on, and he's semi-injured throughout the rest of the game. So there is that. But there's a performance level that he's been miles off it. And for me, there's an obvious choice of who to replace him with. So I just don't understand the persistence. He is a great midfielder. We've seen this before. And I think there's a few footballers who are of a sort of similar age, exposure to an amount of football. I think Phil Foden falls into that category a little bit, where he's had a lot from a young age, played in big tournaments, won a lot of trophies. You know, McAllister, but he just fell off a cliff, and it's almost, you can't find an explanation of why that's happened, and it seems to be becoming more and more. But we've seen this with Fabinho, where you think, oh, where's he gone? Like, how's that footballer just vanished, and you just didn't see it? And I thought it was really telling, and it seems to be missed a lot. That after that Tottenham game, that's it. He goes into some sort of like rehabilitation, and Slot talks about it in the press conference in the week, where he says, you know, he didn't get back as quick as we expected into pre-season. There's something there, but it's almost not being spoken about. And obviously it's showing us performance, but the thing that's losing out is Liverpool. Liverpool are losing out because we keep persisting with him. And it feels harsh to say, but it's like playing with 10 men.
Again, though, we talk about training. You must be picking him for a reason in training, but in matches, I think it's a fitness thing. I don't think he looks fit. I think he's never
really been able to finish a full 90, I've found.
He doesn't look physical enough, doesn't look fast enough, doesn't look strong enough. Yeah, I wouldn't be playing him this week. Like,
I think you can imagine we all looked daft in 3 games, and maybe this is part of the manager's thoughts.
No, but no one's happier than us to look daft.
Exactly.
I'm fine looking daft, yeah.
Yeah, I'm would be delighted because I love the footballer. I absolutely adore the footballer. And he is still, you know, he's still in his, you know, mid-20s. Coming to the end of his mid-20s, I grant you, but he's still in his mid-20s. But I'll say again, he's just had a hell of a lot of burden across the last. And right now, he looks like a footballer who's had a hell of a lot of burden.
Yeah, but I don't think we would look daft because what's happened. So, you know, if he comes good in 3 games' time, that doesn't mean we were wrong. I've had to fucking watch it for the last 6 or 7 weeks, you know what I mean? So, and it's not been great. And I don't think anyone around this table isn't a fan of McAllister. We all love him. We've all been on shows last year raving over him because more often than not, he was making Liverpool tick. Yeah. Because guess what? More often than not, he makes smart decisions. He knows where to be on a football pitch.
That's why managers pick him.
Because even though he's not blessed with massive physical gifts, he understands the game. He knows where to be, puts himself in the right place. And yes, now and again, he might get caught out. Normally on the back of an international break, when he's flown halfway around the world and he's not quite ready and he gets put in and he gets exposed. But more often than not, as I said before, he knows exactly where to put himself. He plays the game in a really sensible way, and he's got those moments of brilliance in him as well, where he'll just open a team up or he can blam one in. He's got that in his locker as well. So yeah, he's just in a really weird place. But all of a sudden, if you are missing Gravenberch for a couple of games, you know, what does the manager do? Does he commit to a Curtis Jones? Well, he probably should do if he wants to play someone else in there, because, you know, I think at times Curtis has got to be a little bit better when he gets a run. I do think there's inconsistency to his game sometimes, but there's no doubt when he comes on yesterday, he influenced the football match. So on this meritocracy thing, he's staking a claim to be picked against Frank Pearce, and he probably should start.
And I think if we're all fair, and if everyone's fit and firing, we think Curtis Jones is probably a substitute.
Yeah,
I think that's fair to say.
I agree.
But in this current Liverpool team, he looks like the solution, and I think that's obviously praise for him because I think he's playing well.
Got to grab his chance though, Paul. If you get to,
But I feel like he is off the bench.
But I think he gets picked to Galatasaray, doesn't he? And he doesn't have a good night, but then none of them do. And this is one of the problems at the minute. Is I feel a little bit like I would, I'm fine with almost. And this is why you sound contradictory, because we were just saying there, he picked the same team as the one against Chelsea. So I'm not. So you sound like a bellend, because what I'm about to say is I wouldn't mind just almost saying you're saying to Curtis, right? You're getting this one, then you're getting Brentford. You're not going to be involved against Palace. Then you're getting the one against Villa. Then you're getting Real Madrid. Then you're getting City.
There's your run.
And we'll see where we all are after that point. And I think that there might need to be a little bit of that with a couple of these lads. I'd do the same thing with Wirtz. I'd be saying to Wirtz, you're getting these now. This is what we're going to do. But it might be that the manager's done that already. And we end up, do you know what I mean? Because I think they could do with being a bit of consistency and backing the boys.
And I do wonder if that's what he's done with his 11, where he's gone, we need to just have something consistent and let them get used to each other or whatever. And that's how he's landed on Unchanged. Don't think he's landed on the right team. But maybe that is it. And
I reckon that was his thought process.
Just don't change too much.
Just find some consistency. Like I say, get them a run of games. They've had an international bid, they come back, and now he's picked. Well, what other reason can you have for picking the same team when you changed it at half time? We were close to another half time sub again yesterday. I thought he was going to do another half time sub. I think the reason he never is because he's already done about 3 of them already.
Yeah. I wouldn't disagree with that. I thought the manager, he was quite kind on them, I thought, after the game. It's not. Sometimes you'll see the manager come out and he's not afraid to throw 1 or 2 under the bus, and you can't do that all the time because it loses impact. But he could have talked about them in the collective of not being good enough and maybe not quite showing, the intensity and stuff like that, but he didn't. And I wonder whether that's just him reflecting on that. Maybe he's getting 1 or 2 things wrong at the minute, and therefore he's not willing to go in too hard on the players because he knows
it's the first time I thought that he'd made excuses though, but he's talking about the game changing and people setting up differently for Liverpool. That's your job to deal with that. And listen, I came out swinging for the manager yesterday in his defence, But if he's not willing to throw the players under the bus or himself, he's talking about a team with a low block. They've only changed. The first game they've took Sesko out and played Cunha, whatever. Good player. You've got to prepare for all eventualities, and you've had 2 weeks to do so in this fixture. Not with the players, but in your mind, you've had a long time to get your lineup right there, and clearly he hasn't got the lineup right from the get-go. But you've got to find your way out of this, but someone's got to take responsibility for getting beat by Man United at home. We haven't won an away game in 6 months.
I'm won an Anfield for
so if you're not going to give it to the players, who are you giving it to? Whose fault is it? Because it's someone's.
Well, listen, what he says behind closed doors can be a different thing to what he says to the cameras.
It's not like him to shy away from it.
That's what I was saying. I'm surprised he wasn't a little bit more front foot, but it is almost that he's very much aware that he's maybe not quite at his best either at the minute, and therefore the time for maybe doing that isn't right now. It would be interesting to know what he's saying behind closed doors, but there's no doubt, as a collective, you include the manager and the players, they're all being found wanting at the minute.
Okay. We'll move on to Frankfurt in a second or two, but before then, Ugo Butler, friend of the show for a long, long time, has got a new film coming out that he's talked to John Gibbons about. It's called How to Make $1 Million in 90 Days. So here is Uber and John.
It's John Gibbons with friend of the show, subscriber, all-round good guy, Uber Butler. Uber, thanks for coming back on.
Thank you for having me.
So we're here to talk about your latest nonsense, which is on Channel 4. So at the time of recording, it's on tonight. So it hasn't been on TV yet, so we can't talk about the, I'm sure, rich acclaim that is soon to come your way. But it is available for people to watch on 4OD. But it's on Channel 4 tonight. How to Make $1 Million in 90 Days.
Yeah, that's right. So is this what day is this going out?
This is Monday. So we've.
It'll be out then.
Yeah, it'll be out. People can stop this and watch it right now. That came out on Thursday night, and it's the second film that I've done with Channel 4, and I'm a millionaire now, so that's good. I mean, no spoilers, but it's about get rich quick schemes. That is hard.
Yeah.
Harder for me to say than even do. And it explores sort of a lot of things. You go international, you go over to America. They love that shit. You meet a lot of billionaires. I'm going to ask you who your favorite one was. But it is an interesting world, isn't it? And we've all seen it. We've all been on holiday, and when you go to WH Smith's, it feels like a growing number of the books now
Yeah.
are telling you for
Yeah.
11.99 how you too can be as rich as them.
Yeah, I think that was sort of what made me interested in this as a subject, was sort of just adjusting to how much of our cultural diet is just all people talking about making money, whether the biggest podcast in the country might be not the Anfield Wrap anymore, I don't think.
No.
No. It might be Diary of a CEO, maybe. And it's just a podcast about, I know a lot of my friends listen to that. A lot of people listen to it. But it's a podcast essentially about kind of entrepreneurship and money making, and then not only that, but if anyone opens up their phone, the algorithms are basically perfectly tailored. A lot of it is sort of get rich quick, right? It's how do you get rich quick? WH Smith going on holiday. It kind of, I don't know, and the thing that I would get it a little better if I thought we were better off because of it.
Yeah.
If we were all, if young people, particularly because it feels more like it's Gen Z / Gen Alpha who are really indoctrinated. I think millennials sort of are, but I still think millennials have kind of got boomer parents who taught them to want to be rock stars. But like, I think that, there's something about this kind of generation, that younger people now who are really just want to talk about money, making money quickly, selling supplements, like all this kind of strange cultural movement. And I'm just, I don't think that anyone's actually better off because of it. I don't, if that was the case, I'd think it was a good thing for young people to be getting into that. I'd say that, I think maybe we're a little worse off for it. So I basically wanted to look into that, and the show was kind of, I've been in between New York and London for the last couple of years now, and seeing the big cultural difference between sort of New York is the movement of money, the way they talk about money. There's no reverence or ceremony around money. They don't they don't have like old money in the way that we have it, where like, most executive positions in both the public and the private sector, most people on television, most people in government all went to the same little group of schools, and they can kind of be stemmed back to some old money aristocracy, landed gentry kind of thing. It's all nouveau riche there. So talking about money is fine. Let's talk about money. It's not about identity. It's about what's in your pocket. And I don't know, there's something more grotesque about that, but something a little more, I don't know, there's something actually quite interesting and sort of sexy about it. And yeah.
It's funny, isn't it? Because I mean, it's part of it is grotesque, and part of it is, like you say, just so. What I found when I was watching it, and I was like, none of this feels real, and none of it feels like tangible, and none of it feels like anyone is making the world any better by making this money. Like, and I don't want to be like too like in my day, but I did feel it did feel like to be wealthy back in the day, you at least had to sell something that was valuable to someone, and then if you sold a lot of those things that were valuable, if you made fucking great jeans and sold them, well, at least the people you were selling it to were getting a great pair of jeans. Now it does feel like, I don't know, everyone's just trying to scam everyone, really. And the people who are losing out are often the people who've got the least. Like, I mean, scam rich people if you want, and you had to go. But it does feel like, and maybe listen, this has always been the case. You explore pyramid schemes, which has been around for a long time. You talk about family history with them, don't want to give too much away. So I don't know, scammers have been around as long as sort of snake skin oil has been a thing, but it's still, I don't know, it feels like it's because it's a global world, and because you can buy things at a click of the button now, it feels like it's on steroids.
Yeah, I think that the thing that I think you're 100% right, and I think the thing that I realized is, one of the first things I do is I create this kind of brand called Ethical Sweatshop, where it's a legal sweatshop in Britain, and it's a football shirt actually, and it's like we get the kids to design for a fictional football club, the sponsor. And it's kind of like the ethical shit, unethical shit you find on football shirts anyway. We got the kids to design and come up with a a cigarette company, and they genuinely come up with one called Holy Smokes, which is a sort of
The kids are amazing.
yeah,
I did
they're
feel
great.
like of all the exploitative behavior in the TV show, I'm like, no, I could get on board with this. Why
Yeah.
are we getting 10 kids into the Anfield Wrap every week and getting them to come up with ideas? Because they were unreal and cheap.
Yeah, they're amazing. Yeah, and well, free. That's the crucial part. And the thing is with that was the thing I realized was we made 10 grand on those shirts, which in any other context I'd have been really happy with. In this context, it's 1% of what I needed to make it. It wasn't good enough. And the thing I realized quite quickly was that the idea of selling shirts one day was way more valuable than ever selling a shirt. So, and I think that what was interesting to me about this film was just that swirl of private equity and venture capital and investment, and almost as you just said, like it's better rather than having a tangible business plan. All right, Anfield Wrap, we have, I don't know how many subscribers you have, I'm just going to say 10,000 subscribers. I'm sure I'm off, but that's a tangible number of people paying a certain amount a month, yada yada. That's a tangible, actual, real business. Whereas I feel like what they really want is for you to have a much less tangible idea of what you're doing. AI, blah blah, something, a story that you sell that's basically bollocks about that one day maybe this will be worth something. And almost like it's like a neo-feudalistic system that you go to these very wealthy people and with your cap in your hand and you say, well, not really cap in hand, but more of doing a dance. And you say, you should invest in this and maybe one day you speculate on this and you can write it off, no problem. And you can we can join the club together. But that was constantly what I was finding. And it was, obviously there's a few moments in the film where I literally just managed to get in a room with a billionaire and ask them for £1 million, please. But which was at times humiliating, but something I had to get over quickly in making this film, because it's, as you say, it's this kind of tension between actual tangible money making, which I went into it thinking that's what I would be doing. By the end of it, the lesson that I learned was if you're going to get rich quick, you got to basically lie.
Who was your favorite billionaire?
Oh, I feel bad now. I think it's probably Jim McKelvey, who's the guy who's in it. He is doing some nice things with his money. He started Square with Jack Dorsey, and the Square, the payment app.
Yeah.
That he started that. So that's the opening guy in the film that I go into and ask him for £1 million. And he's putting his money into a lot of things like drugs and pharmaceutical things that trying to help people. I think.
And he has created and sold something that is useful to people as well.
True.
Which is something,
yeah. When I met him, he was telling me about a nappy that he had made that had no plastic in it. And it's taken him a long time, which is, I think, quite funny, the idea that he's just sat in a lab in the Midwest trying to make nappies. Yeah. So I think he, obviously a lot of the people we come into contact with are quite crypto heavy people. Like one of our main characters started Venmo, which for the American listeners, they'll know exactly what that is. For everyone else, it's sort of like Monzo or meets PayPal. It's absolutely massive in America. And it was mad being in a room, and we form a company together. We're briefly co-founders together, and it's kind of weird being in a space with someone who's objectively made a $30 billion company, who's genuinely done something that's changed the world in that way. But I don't know how to say this, but from time to time, he just seems so regular, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like I think the thing that I realized that I saw in him and I saw in these people was I failed lots in this film. Like, a lot of it was failure. And I think he fails too, but he just, every time he fails, he tells a story that he won. And I think that's maybe it. At the end of the film, when I create this, without giving away what happens completely, I create this auction in the East Village, or in a penthouse in the East Village in New York. It's filled with investors, and I auction off 10% of myself for the rest of my life. And that is the pitch that I make. I go through all the stuff I've done in the film, and I spin it as a win. And I don't know. I mean, It was a weird experience. It was a weird film, and the question that I went into it with was, can you get rich quick if you have no ethical boundaries? And I think if I'd have had fewer ethical boundaries, there's about 3 or 4 times in that film where I would have made a lot of money if I was willing to do things I didn't want to do because of my family history, as you said.
You can see at times that you're wrestling with your conscience, and it's the conscience versus, well, I've signed up to do this thing now. Largely, I sent it to that more than like, oh, I would like to make loads of money. So it's not necessarily the conscience between making money and doing the wrong thing. It's like, well, I've agreed with Channel 4 that I'm going to try and do this. But was there ever bits where it was exciting? It must, like, when you sat there with a guy who's, like you say, he set up Venmo and he's like, fuck it, let's go into business together. Like, you must have got a little bit of a rush.
100%. You saw us jamming together. me playing a really bad version of Miles Davis. Actually, I probably shouldn't say that I'm recording because they'll ask us for a couple for royalties. We're jamming. We're doing jazz jamming. And of course it's fun. Of course it's absolutely infectious. And I think that's it. Like, it's like, it felt like almost like I was completely going along for the ride. And that's why when he kind of almost like sort of seemed like he figured out that I was actually just a weird fucker and not a business genius, that it was hurtful and that I was worried that I'd lost that opportunity. And then when he popped back up, he went missing for a while and he pops back up and now I'm back in and he comes up with this idea, which probably as a viewer, you're thinking, oh, that's not a good idea, Uber. Don't sell off 10% of yourself. I don't know. Whereas me at the time, I'm desperate. We've got about 5 or 6 days left of the challenge, and I'm like, yeah, fuck it. But yeah, there's something mad about, or like the scene with Naz Daly, the big creator who's huge on Facebook and Instagram. He's in the film, and he puts in 50 grand just at the drop of the hat and buys a piece of me. And
I love that he says, "Oh, I'm doing it because it's fun." And and then it's just like, imagine being able to spend 50 grand on something just for a laugh. Like,
can you imagine us, John?
And
we'd be even more unbearable after a couple of drinks.
The things I pay you 50 grand to do. Let's not talk about that. There's one. I mean, there's one kind of thing that I liked there's lots of things that I enjoyed about the film. I enjoyed the program. I enjoyed watching it. It's a lot of fun. It made me think. But there was one thing that I took from it from a positive point of view, which is, I can't remember who says it to you or you say it to them, but there was a point where you talk about, someone says it to you about the people that you surround yourself with and people inspiring you. And I think that there is actually something in that. We don't necessarily need to be with, other billionaires and ask them for crumbs and things like that. And it's not necessarily getting in these circles of super rich people who are basically planning these elaborate scams to take money off people. But I think there is something around surrounding yourself with positive people, with like-minded people, with creative people if you're creative, and that being inspiring. And it reminds me of sort of being young and being around people who were doing the kind of things I wanted to do and seeing it was possible and going, yeah, I can do that. And that came across in the film. And I thought, do you know what? That's actually quite a positive reminder for all of us that, who we choose to spend time with is our choice. And we could spend time with people who bring us down a little bit, or we can spend time with people who, make us believe more of ourselves is possible. And I think that is quite nice.
Yeah, and I think for me, the thing that a real positive that I took is that, obviously we have this moment towards the end of the film. I'm stood on this balcony in Miami, and I'm just been signed a contract, which means I'll have a lot more money than I've had before. And I'm really miserable, and I genuinely felt dead inside and I'm not acting anyway in that. It's as it is. I was like, I would really like to stop filming now, but I know that we need the end to this film. Do you know what I mean? It was like, but it made me realize, the whole experience made me realize really like what I didn't want to do with my life, and that I'm really happy to. I mean, you know me well, so you saw, oh, he's doing this now because he doesn't want to fuck up the film.
Yeah.
And that is basically what it was, crypto is such a weird thing because I don't think it's black and white. I don't think that, I'm not saying, and tons of my mates are into it. I get it. I personally have always had a discomfort with it. But like, there's a few moments in that film where, I try to put in about £500. We had to fact check this and we couldn't, but something like that. At the point where the guy from Venmo asked me to invest in his coin, I'd have been a millionaire. And you just think, you can drive yourself insane thinking about that. But I don't think, presented with that now, I don't think I would, having done the thing and had access to that money and decided to not do that. Maybe watch and see what you think. But you should watch it anyway. The film is a cinema verite film, and to me, it makes me laugh a lot. The access to these people, it's kind of got that. We tried to do something that was a little like the early Louis Theroux stuff, kind of like Weird Weekends, where you're in the space with the people. It's like the Amazon film we did, Channel 4 a couple of years ago, was way more set pieces. This bit. This one is like a mad fucking mess, and I'm glad it works. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's a mad film, and I'm definitely a mess, but I'm glad it works. And it's taught me, the positive you just said from it. Definitely of having like-minded people, as you pointed out. I think that's John Levy, the behavioral scientist, who says that in the film. The other thing for me was just learning the things that genuinely make me happy, and that to have that objective experience. I think so long as you're not uncomfortable and so long as you're not struggling in that, then there are a lot more important things than what this film was all about. And I hope that things like, seeing how humiliatingly bad meme launching an educational platform goes for me. Because obviously the reason I did that is that I'd seen online so many people saying you should sell classes, like people like Ty Lopez, people like Luke Belmar. Oh, you need to sell classes. Then there's people saying, you should sell classes about how to make a class that will make you money. And it's this like mad Russian doll of scams and like Russian doll scams, and I do it, and I put all this weight behind it. We have millions of views on the trailer for it, and we sell one in 24 hours. So there's a few things we try and that I try to sort of do public service wrapped in a more funny package. But yeah, I mean, and also I am definitely trying to get rich in the film, and you'll see some failure, you'll see some success, and you'll see a lot of me looking stupid.
Uber Butler, you are a public service wrapped in a funny package. That is a good description of yourself. Would encourage everyone to watch it. I've literally just pressed stop and come upstairs to do it with Uber. He will attest to that. We delayed this call, so I could have the time to watch it. But I loved it as ever. I've loved hanging out with you as ever. You're someone who elevates me, Uber. But
likewise.
But not to £1 million. So let's work on that.
I would drink 100 pints, and I would drink. No, up the Reds. Yeah, had a blast. This is, as I was saying to the press agent, the Channel 4 people before I came on this. I was like, well, I've got in the morning I've got 5 Live, and then I can't remember what else. Oh, Politics Joe, that podcast. And I was like, then I'm doing the Anfield Wrap, which is the podcast I spend most of my time listening to. So I'm saying hello to Uber in the future right now.
Hello, future Uber.
Hello, future Uber.
Great stuff from Uber there. We're going on tour, by the way. Come to that. If you want someone to slaughter the Reds, come to see us in November in London. No, we won't be doing that. Well, we might be doing that if it's called upon. But we're in London on Thursday of the international break, which I cannot remember now off the top of my head, which is frustrating. I think it's Thursday the 14th of November. We're in London. On the 15th, then on the Friday, we're in Cardiff. First time we've ever done a show in Wales. And then on Sunday, we're in Glasgow, because fuck me, it's really hard to get from Cardiff to other places, especially Glasgow. So Glasgow on Sunday, and then Edinburgh on the Monday. Come down and check all of that out. People have been asking about other places. I'm optimistic there'll be something that is announced in Ireland in February. So keep your eyes peeled for that. But Hannon's working on it at the minute to the best of his ability. So yeah, that's what we're looking at in that little run. So it is. Check it all out. theanfieldwrap.com/TAW live in order to see all of those 4 dates together and buy some tickets for them. All right then. The Swiss system is something that everyone's trying to get to grips with, Ian, and understand what you do or don't need to do. Last season, it was 16 points to come in the top 8. It was 11 points to come 24th. That's not a big spread between 9th and 24th there. It's worth pointing that out. the one thing that you can say is that if you want to get to 16 points, it very much helps if you beat your pot 4 team away.
Yeah.
Liverpool did not do that. They got beat by Galatasaray. It was a tough draw, but you've got to deal with what's in front of you, and Liverpool failed to get a result in Galatasaray. There's just a bit of pressure on this one outside of the 4 consecutive defeats, fucking hell, wins, the 4 consecutive defeats. There is a bit of pressure that Liverpool certainly can't afford to get beat, but they're probably going to have to win in at least one of Marseille, Milan and Frankfurt's the job on Wednesday.
Yeah, I must admit, I'm not just saying this now because of where we are, but when the draw was made, I did think that could be a bit of a problem now. You know, we don't get off to a good start, and to be fair, we do, because we beat Atletico Madrid, but you are thinking there's 2 potentially tricky aways there. So if you drop points in the first one, and you got those 2 away games, and you got Real Madrid, so you could have seen a scenario where Liverpool were right up against it. Now they've managed to put themselves right up against it because the Galatasaray performance was a mile off. They get the win in the first game, but like you say, now there's pressure on. But I'm hoping these players are looking at it as a bit of an opportunity to put 1 or 2 things right. It won't kind of erase the memory of those sort of 4 games, but you know, you've got to get back at it and back on the horse. And there's a game on Wednesday. You know, this is part of the problem for the manager. He's talked about it before. There's not much time for training time. So you are relying on him doing bits in between games, the players being right at it and finding their level again. And it'll be a really interesting fixture. It's a fixture I think Liverpool in decent form. We know they're not in decent form, but normally they'd be going there and thinking, or I'd be going there thinking, yeah, we'll win this game. Now at the minute, given what you've seen, you're not quite sure what to expect. But at some point, Neil, it has got to turn. They have got to change. You know, these players will at some point find something. And we've slaughtered them a little bit today, and we've battered them over the head. But I've got no doubt the manager will sort it. I've got every faith he'll sort it. You know, what he delivered last season, you know, we'll be eternally grateful for. And there's players in there who've been there and done it. And there's new lads who eventually will click. So I think it'll be a tough game, but I do think Liverpool will go over there and get results.
Yeah, I mean, as peppy as it gets today on a day like today, you know what I mean? We're nowhere near as peppy as we've been in the past. Paul, what are you expecting from it? You're going over, so you know what do you think you're getting from the Reds?
I think it's just important we get a sensible start, even
a normal-ish game.
Just play it easy the first 10-15 minutes. Find yourself into the game, but don't give anything up because we're giving ourselves uphill battles. And I said this about Galatasaray. These teams on paper look scarier than they are because of the gap between the Premier League and a lot of other leagues. But if you let them score first, you're in a bear pit. And I think Liverpool just need to go with a sensible, pragmatic head on really and be like, okay, we've seen the route of our downfall recently, and early goals tend to be it. So let's not chase the game. Let's feel our way into the game, even if we have to just take our foot off the gas the first couple of minutes. Don't give up anything early. Get settled and play our game and play our proper game. And I think in that instance we'd be all right. But it's proved, hasn't it? It's much easier said than done. I think
but this is back to encouragement. I think that the side last season, for instance, was brilliant at removing encouragement from the opposition. And this season, we haven't looked, there's barely been an opposition we haven't encouraged, with the possible exception of the last 20 minutes against Everton, although it might have been different if they got the 8 minutes of injury time they cried about. You know, we've not offered that encouragement really to opposition sides. They've got to start making life harder for the opposition.
I agree. A few weeks back, I was starting to think that something's just going to click and Liverpool will just turn back up. Now I'm changing a little bit. I think Liverpool are going to have to fight the way out of this. It's going to be a gradual return to the best. I don't think we're going to, just going to click. So I don't think it's going to be an easy game. But I just want Liverpool to, as you say, turn up, be sensible, not concede early, and put a proper European performance in and come away with the points. Whether the draw is acceptable or not, I don't know. But I'm not even going to think about that. I just want Liverpool to win the game.
I think we're past needing a reaction. Of course, we do need a reaction, but we need a performance that comes with it. Obviously we need a result, and it'd be nice to just grind one out. But I think the Champions League maybe creates a little bit of an opportunity to maybe go and put a performance on. And if Liverpool can get themselves into a game and play well and find some rhythm, we've got to pick the right team.
Sounds so basic, but I want them to want it more than Frankfurt. I've not seen them want it more than the other team for
This
weeks.
is the opportunity, so you can envisage maybe 5 or 6 changes potentially.
We'll pick me a team.
So for those lads who are going to come in, they should see it as, well, I'm staking a claim here for Brentford, which is why I think they might get a result, because the gauntlet's there, going in your place against Brentford. So I think, listen, the goalie's the goalie, he's got no choice. I think where it gets a little bit tricky is that there's a legitimate case for making some changes in the back four, but how many of them do you want to change? Now, I think Robertson probably will get a start. I think that feels right. You've got to give him some football at some point. So I think he might do the left back. He might do the right back, because Frimpong's played in Germany, so he knows the challenge.
I think that's important.
There's every chance he changes his full-backs. So then does he feel comfortable changing another one? I think there's a real case for giving Gomez some football, because when are you going to do it? But it almost feels like he's a bit worried if he plays Gomez, he might get injured and he's down to 2. Which feels a little bit mad, but he does feel like he's in that space where he doesn't want to risk him. So he might just go with the same centre halves, but I understand why people would say play Gomez in this one. And then I think the midfield, I think it is Szoboszlai, it's Curtis Jones and it's Wirtz. And then you got to pick a front three. And if I was picking a front three, I'd be picking Ekitike. And I think he'll probably go with Gakpo again. I think he will. He'll probably give Isak a rest, go with Ekitike through the middle, and I'd play Chiesa. And I wouldn't play Salah.
Any moves on that?
Yeah, I'm not quite where Ian is. I'd only change the right back from the back 5. I think I'd bring Frimpong in. I'd have Szoboszlai in midfield next to Gravenberch with Wirtz ahead of him.
Same.
And then...
But with Gravenberch might have a knock, so that's...
Oh, sorry, I said Szoboszlai, yeah. So yeah. Like Curtis Jones and Wirtz, because I don't think Gravenberch... He had a twisted ankle, which makes you think he might not be risked.
But if that's the case, I'd just play Jones as the 6 and have Szoboszlai next to him still. I think I've contradicted myself a little bit by saying Curtis Jones should play, but I'm just trying to get that team with all the numbers you've got, all the options you've got, but I'm going, well, I need to have Wirtz there, because that's my starting point almost for the midfield. But then if Gravenberch is fit, I'd play him with Jones or Szoboszlai. I want to play a right back. At right back, I want to get into that belief again. I think one of our problems with this big vacant space that we have is that Szoboszlai isn't in the midfield, and which is obviously leading to Konate having a load of space in front of him and whatnot. So I'd like to see a sensible midfield there. And then the front line, I'd like to see Ekitike and Isak playing together. And I don't care who else is in the 3, quite frankly. If it's Salah, if it's Chiesa, if it's Ngamoa, I don't mind. But I think you've got to try and see a little bit more of Ekitike and Isak. And then I would just drop Isak out of Brentford and go with Ekitike again.
Would you? So I'd play Isak at Brentford, and I think, because he played 90s for Sweden, hasn't he, as well? And then he doesn't quite get a 90 against United, but I just thought, well, how much are they going to push him from the start? Are they going to maybe just take him out midweek and put him back into the weekend? I think he might go towards that, but I wouldn't be shocked if he starts again.
I think he'll start Isak again. I think just them comments about him in the press conference about him being fit now, having his pre-season, it's time to judge him, etc.
Think he looks fit?
No.
I don't think he looks
well, if he's fit, he's not working hard.
That's what I mean. So I think they're going to have to still look after him a little bit.
Yeah.
And as I say, did he play 2 90s for Sweden?
Yeah.
I think he did, didn't he? So they're pushing him, or he's being pushed, either by the national manager or by our manager, by saying he's nearly there, you can start judging him. But they might just have an eye on him, not just pushing him too much too soon. It's a lot of games in a short space of time now.
You say that, but I mean, his load is a lot less than everyone else in the team, and it's not like he's come back from a big injury or whatnot. He's just not had a pre-season.
No, but he's a player who's had muscle injuries in the past, so I think he might just have an eye on it. Listen, I wouldn't be shocked if he starts, but then if you start him in Frankfurt, can you then just start him against Brentford? I think they'll need him against Brentford, to be honest with you. He is a physical presence.
What are you doing up front?
I don't know. I think a lot of it comes down to whether or not Gravenberch's fit. I wouldn't be averse to seeing him just basically have a plan for an hour and then a plan to change it, because I think one of the things that keeps happening is we're chasing games for 35, but from the position of needing something, rather than changing games from 35 from the position of going.
It's reactive, not proactive.
Yeah. So so for instance, if Gravenberch's fully fit, I wouldn't mind seeing Gravenberch, Szoboszlai, Wirtz, and then Jones off the left.
It felt precautionary, Gravenberch. I think he wanted to change the game in an attacking sense. And maybe if he doesn't have a little bit of a knock, he puts him at centre half and takes Konate off.
I think there's a fair chance of that, that's the case. So, I don't want to sort of overplay that. But if that is the case, as I say, if Gravenberch is fit, then I wouldn't have a problem seeing Jones, as I say, do maybe even a couple of games from the left-hand side, just to hold it up. I know Gakpo scores, but just to sort of hold it up, get involved. I think it makes things a little easier for Wirtz. I think you saw that Wirtz and Jones had a bit of a relationship. And then for this, if that's the case, I would be going with Ekitike, and then I will be picking Salah.
Can Szoboszlai and Jones do a job in midfield, or is that too?
No, I think you can have. I think you saw it. I thought you saw Jones and Wirtz do a job in midfield in a way.
That's where I landed, but only because I thought Gravenberch wouldn't play. If Gravenberch's fit,
if Gravenberch isn't fit, or they want to rest Gravenberch with an eye on Brentford, I mean, he's 75% or something, but they think he'll be flying them for Brentford. I think it's very important he plays against Brentford. Then I'd be looking at, then I would be looking at playing Szoboszlai and Jones and Wirtz. That's your midfield three. And then I would go with Ekitike off the left for at least an hour to have a little look at it.
Is that with Frimpong at right back?
And then with Isak and with Salah, and I play Frimpong at right back,
That's my team.
But the other
when
one...
are you playing Salah until? By the way, just out of interest, how many
because I don't like anyone else who plays right wing. I'm picking Salah because that's been decided. Yeah, you can not like it, but they literally didn't buy anyone to back him up. So, you know, I would use...
Would Chiesa do a job for you for 60 out there?
Not that asked. I wouldn't be averse seeing Chiesa play off the left, and I think Chiesa wants to play off the left. I think Chiesa thinks off the left is his position, and you think about a lot of the good work he's done against Southampton, even when he comes on against United, it's in that channel. And that's where Chiesa sees his business.
That's also in the start though, Chiesa, because for me, he has done
well,
that.
I wouldn't be... if you said to me, all right, we're going to go with what I just said, but it's Chiesa left, Ekitike through the middle and Salah on the right, I just think they need to think about, and Salah needs to think about as well. There's a lot of talk about last season the manager came in and we adapted my position and my role and it went like this. Well, maybe it needs to readapt. And I sort of feel as though what we haven't seen yet, and I just sort of can't get this out of my head, I thought the plan, with if you right backs are Bradley and Frimpong, surely your plan is those lads are ending up on the outside of Salah. Whichever one of them it is that plays, go on the outside of Salah. Well, let's give Frimpong the opportunity to get on the outside. I think
he did some damage yesterday when he was playing there.
And also when he comes, but also if Salah then comes narrower and is used a little bit. So if you've almost got Wirtz and Salah playing a little bit deeper in tandem with each other, I've mentioned Curtis Jones as well. Suddenly you've got footballers and creators to come and do a bit, and you're looking at that outside run. But the mad thing is, I'm saying this, but we've not seen this. But we did see it briefly against Bournemouth. I think Bournemouth, you think about it, Frimpong was pushed, playing as a right back, but was pushed quite high up. Salah was a little bit narrower. If that's the plan, then let's do the plan.
So I know you're against Frimpong up top, aren't you? And
don't like him in midfield.
Could that be a way home if you want to play a two up front? Is what I'm saying. Because yesterday when he brings Frimpong in, he's ahead of Szoboszlai.
You're talking again about Isak and Ekitike on the same
them
pitch.
as a two, and then you've got your midfield that you want as a two, but then you've got Szoboszlai you can invert, and that creates a midfield three when you're going forward. So
do you think he's waiting for Salah to go to AFCON before he tries that, because it takes the problem away a little bit? I think the difficulty with Salah, and I probably wouldn't play him certainly in one of the next two. I'd leave him out of one of the next two games. But you're always thinking, because he's been so
that's
good.
Probably Palace,
at some point,
he's not going to play.
At some point, you think he'll just click back in, or he'll have a game where, like against Atletico Madrid, he was good for large parts of that game. The manager's probably hanging on to that. But you're seeing so many performances at the minute that are just very, very similar, where he's not quite at it, his touch is not quite there. I think what I'm saying is, if it had been anyone else other than Salah, he probably would have been dropped by now.
But I think that possibly, but anyone else apart from Salah, firstly, doesn't get given all the money in the world, and secondly,
this is the problem,
secondly, as a backup option. I think you want the player who's going to attack things from the back post in an effective way when you're building your play, and I think that's Gakpo's major saving grace, by the way, is that he does do that. And
such a weird game though, didn't he, yesterday, Gakpo?
Such a weird footballer.
Footballer. He's arguably Liverpool's best forward against United because he's involved more than anyone else. But there's just times where he leaves you so frustrated, and you think, well, lad, just use your physical frame.
He's not one to give
you
put
the ball in from 6 yards out.
He's an output fella, isn't he? So like he scores 20 goals last season, and yesterday he should probably have a hat trick. You know, and he should have a hat trick, and obviously he gets one. But currently, if the ball falls in the box to anyone for Liverpool, and I know he misses an absolute sitter yesterday, I'm almost Ekitike aside, maybe. I'm willing if to fall to him.
But even Ekitike comes on and he cuts inside and then plays one over the back and then he puts another one wide. This is my point about the match yesterday. We have 4-5 forwards on the pitch over the course of 90 minutes, and every single one of them misses a sitter. So we can
put everything aside about tactics and selection, etc. But we take it on chances.
Yeah, I think listen, I can see. I wouldn't be bothered if Chiesa turns up and he's playing left hand side. As I say, I don't quite see him on the right hand side. I don't think it suits the way we want to play.
Play the right hand side. Didn't he used to play the right hand side?
Not really, no.
No.
Not really seen it much for us, have we?
No, I think it's...
As a younger player, I thought he used to play off the right.
And also, my other thing, part of why you persevere with Salah is that if you can, obviously, whatever it takes to get it right, whatever little tactical tweak you have to make to get it right, and I think that's what it is at this point, and I think it is coming a little bit closer to goal. I think it's coming a little bit more central. I think that when you unlock, like, as I say, literally the best moment of quality from a Liverpool player yesterday, for all Jones and Wirtz came on and made a difference, it was that through ball to Gakpo. It's a 60-yard pass that, and if that gets stuck into the back of the net, everyone's clipping, Liverpool go on and win the game 3-1, everyone's clipping that over and over and over from Salah.
That's why he's on 20 million quid a year, though, Neil, and
that's what it means.
And the expectation comes with that, unfortunately, for Mo.
So, I don't think it's unfortunate for Mo,
that as well.
but I think it's time to fucking deliver. And you can only deliver by virtue of being on the pitch, and maybe if other things are working a little bit better, but that's not me saying he's absolutely undroppable. I'm just sort of at the point that if there's one that you persevere with, it's the fellow who scored all the goals.
And the manager will be thinking that because he'll think, history tells you at some point Salah will click back in. Like there was a show recently on the Anfield Wrap and people were talking about, are you worried about him? And people were saying, well, he's had these spells before, but those spells have normally come towards the end of a campaign where maybe he's had AFCON or he's obviously played 30 league games and he's just tailing off a little bit. For it to come so early in the season, that's where people are a little bit like, is there more to it? Is it just maybe time catching up a little bit, possibly? We don't quite know.
Doesn't score for 2 months in 2019, February to April. Doesn't score for 2 months.
We know not to write him off. And no, I don't think anyone
on
this table is writing him off.
No.
But he is also 34, and I think if you keep running him again while he's out of form,
it will happen.
Just take him out for a week. Like you've got 2 games here where I think he might just be a good option off the bench. But as you say, Neil, it's who you put in for him.
Take your chance in the 6-yard box again, though, yesterday. And
this is the thing, it drops to him anyway. Do
you think, and I was saying it before, obviously, forgot about Frimpong, but like, that's who I was alluding to before. The manager mentioned him in press conference about just playing that Salah role.
If the manager wants to do it, he should do it. I just don't like it.
There might just be something there where he thinks, I might use him in certain games in that position because he has got pace, he can put a ball in. He is a bit of a goal threat, and he was a goal threat in Germany. So is there a case for maybe in certain games using him there?
I think that's what if that's what the manager wants to do, he should do it. I don't like it because I think whilst he's a bit of a goal threat, I don't think he's enough of a goal threat.
I've not watched him enough in Germany to know whether he's going to do that.
I agree with you on that.
And this is what I come back to.
Galatasaray, and he looked like a square peg in a round hole.
Yeah, and I'm just quite, where I sort of end up, and if we're changing. So maybe even change faster then. But where I think, what's brought us to the dance over and over again is 3 forwards. Since Jurgen Klopp turned up, it's 3 forwards. All my favourite Premier League teams, when I say favourites, the ones that I had the most respect for, 3 forwards. Drogba, Duff, Robin in there. You can go to Rooney, Ronaldo, Tevez.
Not to say that.
3 forwards. I think that there's a couple of the Man City teams where he it's been done a little bit differently at times, but you're always looking at 3 genuine goal threats on the pitch. And I just think the good thing about having 3 forwards normally is if one's not producing and another one's in quite good form.
I'm not disagreeing, by the way, I'm just thinking about what the manager
might do. But it also doesn't mean that it has to be 3 in a 4-3-3. And that's the thing I was alluding to with getting the 2 up through the middle, is you can still play Gakpo off the left in a 4-4-2 and have Frimpong on the right of that. I just think while we're out of form, we've got to find something that works and gets results. And it might have to be a change where someone has to step out. And the 2 obvious ones for me at the moment are Salah and McAllister.
Well, I'd ride Salah, I'd lose McAllister. That's sort of where I've ended up.
And someone says around me yesterday, Neil, they were like, when was the last time you seen Salah beat a man? Well, I've seen Salah score a Salah goal against Atletico Madrid. So it's not like, it's not the football's left him, to phrase Carragher, but it's still in there somewhere, but we've just got to either find a way of unlocking it, or if it doesn't look like it's anywhere close, he might just have to step out the team.
That'll do. Thank you very much to Keo, to Paul, and to Ian, Uber and John as well. Peloton for supporting the show all the way through. You for listening and enjoying. I thought under the circumstances that was as good as it's going to get.